Alright, lads, so today over on Bleach, so at Resident, we just wrapped up a live stream. It was pretty much a Q&A with the dev team. And with that, surprisingly, they do have a lot to say regarding the upcoming character release, that be Mayuri, what's going to release alongside him, and also some upcoming characters leading up to the half anniversary for Bleach So Residents. Can't believe, by the way, it's been almost 6 months since this game has come out. So we have a lot of talking points to go over in today's video. So starting off, of course, the new character is going to be a Mayuri, and he is scheduled to be a Frost type support character. And we did talk about his leaks 2 days ago. He looks right now to be a very powerful support character for element damage teams. And with that in mind, Mayuri is recognized as a high-cost performance character. So I think the idea of what they are trying to say here with point number 2 is that the character does get better with duplicates. Now, as of right now, this is what his dupes are looking like. And the most important one definitely is going to be the 6 duplicate, as the more excitement this character can give to the team, the more attack boost and also element damage he does give for the team as well. So there isn't really much to say about this, right? As expected, every character gets better with duplicates, but it is also important to understand that, of course, if you are using him at B0, you are going to be perfectly fine. And some talking points in regards to Mayuri: he can heal and trigger time stop. His heal is specifically seen on his technique. And in regards to them referring to trigger and time stop, I'm really not sure how he's going to be able to do that besides just, flash stepping. Point number 4, Mayuri's enhanced normal attack, so special attack does summon Nemu. His Bankai animation in particular has spectacular animation, so I'm excited to see what that is going to look like. So random jump cut, we actually just got SSR Mayuri gameplay. It's a very short clip, not the greatest quality, but we do get to see what Mayuri is going to look like. So this right now seems to be his... ooh, that was kind of cool. Let me just rewind that real quick. This is his intro animation, and that perspective shot is actually kind of cool. So what we have here now is his basic attack combo, where, as expected, he's going to be using his already activated Shikai. And we're just going to get a bunch of purple slashes, purple poison effects, I guess you can expect to see. In the bottom, we do have access to his spiritual pressure gauge, where I believe in this case, what did he use? I have no idea what he just did right now. So I believe this right here is the first version of the technique where he does heal himself or his team potentially. But in this case, it's leaked footage, right? Potential test footage. So it doesn't seem to activate the cooldown. I assume it would, though, when it actually comes to the game. But that's going to be the one variation of the technique. This right here is the superhuman potion, which does similarly have an animation to it and potentially does affect the battlefields, but only for a very short time. After that, this is the Flesh Tonic, potentially. I think where he just throws a bunch of bombs and they take more damage. Fairly simple animation, but okay. And then the final technique, never mind, this is the special attack, where we have Nemu appear, which is kind of cool. And then that's going to be the super gift. So this is going to be the enhanced technique where he basically does everything, right? He does the superhuman potion and he also throws the tonics, if that's what it is. I think I'm saying it right, at the enemies. And I believe, did Nemu appear? Nemu didn't appear, but just a bunch of explosions. Pretty cool, right? So now we have the Bankai. Hold on. Okay. And he just slams down. Ooh. That did actually look pretty cool. I like that. Would have liked, though, if the Bankai, again, stayed in effect here, and you could actually see him more often besides just being a one attack. But the animation's actually pretty quick, which I think is a good thing, because for a support character, you don't want to take up too much screen time presence. And then lastly, this is going to be his counter effects, which he summons Nemu again. So pretty cool. And if anything, this might be the biggest one. Apparently, he's going to be easier to operate than Kisuke, which is kind of crazy because one of the best parts about Kisuke right now is the fact that he kind of just comes in, you use your technique, your special attack, and ultimate, and then you switch off the character. Maybe the idea with Mayuri in terms of rotation is that you only really switch into him when you have to use the technique. So maybe that is why he is going to be easier to operate, where you only need to use one attack instead of potentially 2 or 3. And if his buffs last longer, it means you don't have to always switch into a character like Mayuri as opposed to Kisuke. Especially with Kisuke at B2, you kind of want to switch in every time that technique is available. Moving away from Mayuri, now let's talk about some of the new stuff coming our way. So with the new version that we are going to be getting with Mayuri's release, there is going to be a total of 8,000 Jades, Spirit Jades up for grabs, which is really cool to see. And with that, we are going to be getting a new dungeon/game mode called the Abyss Challenge. This seemingly does look to be a potential permanent game mode, so hopefully that is the case. more content is always going to be a good thing, especially more permanent content. It also looks like we are going to be getting a free multi on a limited character banner, so in this case, potentially for Mayuri. And this one, I believe, seems to be just a gift for logging into the game. You should receive that in your mailbox in like a week's time when the update does go live. We are going to get double rewards for the resource stages, and also, of course, as expected, more login rewards. Next up, point number 8, they are regarding power creep. So, regarding concerns about severe power creep and fast character release pace, the plan is to continue strong teams for each type in the future, and the damage ceiling for fully formed teams of each type will eventually converge. So right now, especially with the release of Mayuri, right, the Frost team is going to be significantly better than any team in the game, especially Strike that is lacking new characters. But I believe we're going to see it soon. Later in this news post, right, is that eventually all the teams are going to even out. Frost is going to be on the same level as Spirit. Spirit is going to be on the same level as Slash, and Slash will be on the same level as Strike. It will take a while for us to get to that point where every team has their go-to set team, right, but it is something that they are working towards. Point number 9 is also in regards to power creep, right? Because new characters are getting significantly better. So in this case, the stats of dungeon bosses will not inflate. So I believe what they refer to this right now is whatever current content we have, it's not going to get harder. If we are to get harder content, it will be new content, new additions, right? Next up, this one's kind of crazy. We might have to talk about that in a separate video again. So future characters after Mayuri are confirmed to be Soifon and also Grimmjow. And specifically him, Soifon and Yoruichi are going to have a friendship defense mechanic and a unique cooperative attack. That's very cool to see. Right now, remember, Grimmjow is scheduled to be a full assault strike unit. I believe Soifon is going to be a strike tactic unit. So releasing Soifon and Grimmjow back-to-back does make sense. And that very well might, what seems to be now, our next character release. Mayuri, after that, Soifon, and then after that, Grimmjow for the half anniversary. Speaking of half anniversary, it is confirmed that Grimmjow is going to be releasing in May as the half anniversary character. And I'm actually pretty excited for that. There's been a lot of hype for Grimmjow, considering that he's been delayed multiple times. So excited to finally see him come to the game, even if it is for a half anniversary. And again, we'll talk about it in a separate video, but Grimmjow now being a half anni character, I think does guarantee almost that we are likely to get full Hollow Ichigo for the first anniversary. But as stated here, after we complete the Frost team, which will be completed with Mayuri, we're then going to move on to the Strike teams. And then after that, new characters will be focused on the Spirit typing. So from the looks of it, it might be a minute before we do get that Slash tactic unit. But going back to point number 10, Soifon and Yoruichi having a friendship defense mechanic and unique cooperative attacks, I think is going to be very cool if it actually requires you having two characters. I don't assume what they mean by this is that Soifon and Yoruichi will be part of each other's gameplay. Like, let's say, you know, for example, Nemu is part of Mayuri's gameplay, right? Even though it is just a Mayuri character. This does seem to imply that if you have Yoruichi on the team, if you have Soifon on the team, they can do some type of combination attack. And if that's the case, that's going to be really cool for future characters, especially ones that make sense to be used together, again, like Soifon and Yoruichi. Thus far, they've done a pretty good job at making characters that make sense to be together be used together, if that makes sense. Continuing down, and again, shout out to Square Advisor for all this information, because there's kind of a lot to go over. So, point 13, there are no current plans to boost or buff Toshiro or Bankai Ichigo, as the official team encourages players to continuously experience newly released characters. And I think that's kind of fine. I mean, I would love for Toshiro, especially Ichigo, to get buffed, right? Because he just feels already very old, despite, you know, only like 5 or 6 characters releasing since his release, right? But I'm kind of fine with it. They're just old characters, right? It's expected new characters are going to be better. I don't think we need to buff the characters straight away. I know Kenpachi and No technically got buffs, but I think, if anything, my opinion, in regards to buffing characters like Toshiro and Ichigo, do it in the future. Do it for like the first anniversary and make it content. Turn something like this into something to be excited about and something to engage in the game. Maybe very similar to EZA's in Dokkan, for example. I would much prefer that than just one day randomly waking up to Ichigo being a lot better. I mean, that one in itself would be exciting because I'd love to try out Ichigo again. I haven't used him much, but I would rather than just, maybe hold off a bit. We don't need to buff every character that starts to fall off in the game. Buff them in the future, turn it into content. That's personally what I would prefer. With that in mind, point 14, development of new gameplay features is continuously in the works. as expected. With that, new PvE gameplay consists of high continuous difficult challenges that might potentially be seen in the new Abyss game mode coming our way. Number 16, the stamp bag capacity is going to be doubled, increased to 2,000 from 1,000. That in of itself is really good. I do find myself selling a lot of stamps that are just really useless, and it takes a long time to get through those. And I believe in this case, a quick sell button or some type of function regarding to just selling stuff, maybe instantly, if you don't want those, is going to be added. Again, a nice quality of life. Point 17, the review of Little Nelly-O has finally passed and shall be given to every player via in-game mail. So that's something to keep in mind. Remember, it was announced before Nelly-O did release that we were able to play with the character in combat, but then for Little Nell, we are going to be able to use her as a character that you can just walk around in the hub area. It was my assumption that we were going to get that today for week 3, and all we got, unfortunately, it's kind of a dead week right now, which kind of does suck, is this particular event. Maybe they did have plans to release Nelly-O for this week, but unfortunately weren't able to. So point 17 does explain why Nelly-O, Little Nell more so, hasn't been released, but we are going to get it for free, so pretty cool stuff. Continuing on, because there's just so many more stuff to talk about. So a new feature is going to come to the game, Stamp Synthesis, where you combine 3 5-star stamps, assumingly of one type, maybe it's just random, and you create a new 5-star stamp. So for example, if I have 3 pieces for, let's say, this sergeant piece, right? None of them are good. I can now combine these 3 to maybe get another sergeant piece or the exact same piece, and the stats will once more be randomized. That way it's going to be much better. An extra chance even for you to potentially try and get your desired stamp. With any game like this, the gear system is always the most RNG part, and I think this game has a better gear system than most games, but it does have improvements to be made, and this is for the most part one of them. So what this does mean, for the time being, definitely start to save all your stamps, because you can just now combine them to get another stamp. As you'll see right now, I'm actually very close to getting max capacity, so I'm probably going to have to sell a few of them. But hopefully next week when we do get our new update, we do get the 2,000 capacity. That way it makes it easier for us to hoard some potential bad stamps that we can combine to make good ones. 2, the buffs displayed by 6-star stamps will now be displayed in-game. Good to see more quality of life. Practice mode is now going to include options for selecting characters types. The full release game mode will continue to receive new boss updates. The UI for switching characters is going to be updated in the future to allow for faster character swaps. Not sure how that is going to like, but any good change, I'm here for it. And I think this is actually pretty good news too. The new version that we are getting potential Mayuri next week is going to have a new time-limited trial alongside it. Which is about time. The limited time trials were actually very fun, and it was kind of a shame that they want a reoccurring event every 2 to 3 weeks. Hopefully, though, they can remain consistent because you do get really good rewards, and it's also just something extra to do on a daily basis. Continuing on, because again, there's more to talk about. So firstly, in regards to Grimmjow, obviously, as we all already spoke about a lot of times on the channel, he's been getting delayed. So the officials have now come forward to clarify. The explanation is that human form Grimmjow, so just base Grimmjow, and his resurrection form, Pantera, are going to be 2 separate characters. That's kind of surprising, right? So the Grimmjow that we are going to summon for the half anniversary is going to be only resurrection. However, the human form will actually be given away for free. So potentially a free new SR character would be maybe cool if he wants to be used alongside Grimmjow. Be kind of funny having 2 Grimmjows in the same team. It's going to be a weird situation because it's not one character, it'll be 2. But at least we're going to have both playable some way, shape, or form. Number 2, achieving 120 FPS on mobile devices is proving difficult and still under development. So for those that are playing on mobile, that should hopefully come sometime soon. Will Mayuri make Kisuke obsolete? No. That is good to see. Data mining is not encouraged. Furthermore, the existence of a void attribute, I believe they might mean referring to Hollow, does not exist at the time being. And a new skin system, which is expected to be game-changing, is currently in development, hoping to see some good skins in the future. There's a lot of iconic designs for Bleach characters, and namely Mayuri, right? I'm glad we are getting the Hueco Mundo outfit, but there is the now missing Soul Society outfit, and I feel like a lot of characters are just better off getting skins than getting a new character when we just don't need to do that when that potential unit covers everything. You know, for example, Gin should have his captain coat available because we don't need a new Gin character in the captain outfit when the current Gin does everything you would expect a Gin to do. So hopefully this might be in regards to just SSR skins that maybe also change visuals too, make the character look a little bit different. That'll be cool to see, especially when they refer to it being game changing. So continuing on with new character news, future new characters confirmed to include female characters from Hueco Mundo such as Orihime, Hueco Mundo version, Halibel, Soifon, and others. I believe one of them might have been Retsu. So not only do we now have Soifon confirmed, Grimmjow to be also after potentially Soifon, we have more characters coming our way. I don't think this necessarily means that they're, you know, going to be after Grimmjow and Soifon. They're just basically confirmed to arrive in the game, which to be fair, we know, but it's still cool to see, right? I don't think this necessarily confirms that Orihime and Halibel are after Grimmjow, but it's potential. Halibel I'm excited to see because I do like Halibel and I'm excited to see how she is going to look in game. And in regards to Orihime, it's going to be nice for her to get an SSR character. Likely be a really good support character. And this might be our first case of a character getting a new character. But at the same time, I don't think she's going to have any new abilities. I don't believe the Orihime that we have right now doesn't have an ability that this Orihime will have. But either way, her visuals are going to look different, and it also gives a reason for an SR unit to get an SSR character. I'm still hoping we get a new SSR Chad, a new SSR Uryu, Let's Steal, for example, and eventually an SSR Renji, for example. Next up, server-wide ranking rewards will be introduced in the future. Cool stuff. A new boss will be added to the Frenzy Feast game modes. I think that's going to be a good thing just to switch it up instead of fighting the same 5-4 bosses. And a 4th character type is still under discussion and has not been finalized. I believe they mean 5th character typing, because we did speak about that a few weeks ago. There eventually is definitely going to be a new typing. It might just take a minute. And then lastly, again, just a lot of stuff to talk about today in this Q&A. Regarding the Battle Pass, we are going to get more premium rewards in the future. Cheating in leaderboards for the global server or just other servers in general will eventually be addressed. New story content could not be released yet due to ongoing reviews. As bad as that is, I think it's for the best. I wouldn't like to get new story content if we aren't even getting cutscenes. I'd rather actually just wait for that to be ready, approved, so we get the best version of that story game modes. And eventually, the member capacity for guilds might be increased in the future. So, a lot of stuff was announced today, right, in this Q&A. Main takeaway is that we are getting a free 10 pull on the limited banner. Total upwards to 8,000 jades. We're getting a new game mode, Abyss Challenge. Power creep for the time being is not going to get out of hand. Eventually, all teams are going to be on the same level. Even though right now it might look like Frost is getting favoritism, eventually Strike, as we can see with Soifon and Grimmjow being after potentially Mayuri, will make the Strike team better. And then after that, we are going to get more Spirit characters. And after that, I would assume we're finally going to start getting more Slash characters. Right now, there's no plans to buff Tosho and Ichigo. We're getting a bunch of quality of life regarding stamps. Little Nell should be arriving into the game sometime soon. And start saving all your stamps. That way you can combine them to make more stamps and maybe get better stamps. And then lastly, Grimmjow's finally releasing, and we're also surprisingly getting a free Grimmjow in his base form. So that's all the news that we did get today. Let me know what you're most excited about. I think for me, it's definitely finally the release of Grimmjow, especially with a free SR or SSR version. It would be nice eventually, if possible, to get a free SSR. And I have been saying in the past that I do want to see more free SR characters, because an SR alongside an SR, it's overall just a bit more stuff to do, right? A new character to work on. I do hope we continue getting free SRs, and I hope that Grimmjow might not just be a one-off, right? Because they have to make him free for some reason. Because they can't combine it into one character. But, hey, if this gives us another SR character to farm and play with, I'm here for it. 2 Grimmjows coming away, who would have thought, when we couldn't even get 1 until basically today's news. Either way, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys next time. Take care, and peace.